Hello, welcome one and all to Ychyfus, the Kung Fu film discussion podcast with me, Clive Davies, and my hearty sidekick over there.
Mr. Darren Jones, who now is apparently relegated to sidekick.
Yeah, well, we switch. You can be Batman next time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because we have a low budget, so we've only got one costume each, so we have to swap them.
Yeah, I know, and we're wearing the condom out as well, aren't we, at the moment?
Yes.
So we need to get a new one of them at some point.
Yeah.
He says lowering the tone significantly.
Yeah, well done. So other than the joint use of prophylactics, we'll also, I suppose we should set the tone. Ooh!
Oh, hang on, because I'm dressed. You won't know this, listeners, but I am actually dressed as a Taoist priest at the moment. So you've got to do the.
Oh yeah. There we go. And
so now all the Jiangxi have fucked off. So yeah. It's okay.
If you were in front of me, Darren, I would spit blood in your face.
Yes, yeah, you know I like that.
So yes, it's our Halloween episode. So come closer, brave listener, as we kind of speak a bit of Fu horror crossover in the form of a couple of films, double bill. Namely Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave and Magic Cop. One from the early 80s, the other from, well, the late 80s really, but 1990. So about a decade apart, these films. So they're slightly...
we're straddling a couple of decades on this one, aren't we?
Yeah. So both of these films were films that we had seen before, right?
Yeah.
So these are revisits. And if you remember last year's Halloween episode, we did speak Kung Fu Zombie. And there is a connection. Billy Chong. Billy Chong was the star of Kung Fu Zombie. And Billy Chong is also the star of 1980, well, released very beginning of 82, so probably shot in 81. Shot in Taiwan as well, I think. Hong Kong production, but shot in Taiwan, I think.
Yeah, it's got Taiwan written all over it as far as visuals go.
Yes.
But everything I read said Hong Kong.
Yes.
Yeah,
and this is the Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave. And we also, well, I did. I'm not sure if Darren did or not, so I'm going to ask him now. Did you watch both versions of this, Darren, or did you not?
No, I'm afraid I didn't manage that, Clive Davies.
That's okay. I can pick up the slack there, and that's why you're the sidekick.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Yes. For this episode, at least, I have relegated myself.
There we go then.
Sidekick by not doing my homework properly.
You've clawed back a bit of autonomous power there, I notice.
Yes. It's agency. I'm declaring agency.
Yeah. There we go.
Because I'm not Ron Scott. And I do
no,
not
Ron.
In this.
So there's two versions of this. There's a version on you can see on YouTube, which the Wu-Tang Collection has put up, which is about 92 minutes long, and it's sourced from a Japanese VHS. I'm guessing it's got Japanese subtitles on it. But I also managed to snag another copy, which is about 3 minutes longer. Also from a Japanese VHS, it seemed. It was almost identical, like the subtitles were even identical. Apart from a few scenes, which I will get to in good time. But so before we get there, what's the overall plot of this one then, Darren? You're good at this. You were good at Kung Fu Zombie.
Yes. Well, this one is a bit of a, well, it's a bit more of a meanderer, to be honest, than than Kung Fu Zombie, but I'll give it a whirl.
Okay.
So you've got Billy Chong, whose dad's been murdered in the past, and on the kind of, well, I guess it would be the Chinese equivalent of Halloween when all the ghosties come out. But there's apparently a month. There's a month in the Chinese calendar when all the ghosts come out.
Right.
And they can visit the living.
Yeah.
And we're in this month. And Billy Chong's dad comes and visits him while he's training and tells him to avenge his death and tells him who his murderer was. Happens to be Kam Tai Fu, played by Lieh.
Right.
And so we've got Billy on a mission to go and find his dad's killer. And then he goes there, and then after a few little skirmishes and a bit of to and fro, there's lots of ghosties and some fights, and a bit of magic, a bit of Taoist magic, and then the job gets done. Yeah,
that's pretty concise, I'd say. He goes to the haunted Yellow Dragon Town.
Yes.
And just to flesh it out a little bit. So yeah, he goes there, and also, as well as the revenge part, there's kind of a bit of there's a warring wizards kind of thing going on, isn't there? And Loki has in his employ this wizard, played by Adisung. Yes, good old Adisung with his. I'd forgotten he was in this because he's one of those faces you see, and he doesn't often have this much screen time, does he?
No, he's just usually he's just in the background doing a fucking great job.
Yeah.
And he's often he's kind of a bit of a comedy character as well, isn't he?
Yes, a bit of Dean Shecky kind of territory.
Yeah. But fucking hell, this is his moment in this film.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to trawl his filmography using a lot of stuff. You never know. There might be a few other examples out there of him, not starring exactly, but certainly co-starring. But he's because I think the problem with Adisung is he's not good looking, right?
He's nowhere near good looking.
No, but then also at the same type, he's got a slightly forgive us, Adi, but he has a slightly bog standard ugliness that isn't like really, it's not a strong. So he doesn't always play villains. He's just
his disfigurements aren't interesting enough, Clive.
No, he's like looks like he would work in a bank or something like that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Apologies to all you bank workers who listen to us as well. but yeah, he's neither fish nor fowl, is he? So
no.
But anonymous. But in this, he applies himself rather well. I was quite pleased with him here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you've got that fight at the beginning, haven't you? So Billy Chong on his way to the haunted town to kick Lieh's ass comes across this fight, doesn't he, between Adisung and this other Taoist priest.
Right.
And Adisung plays dirty, and has all sorts of nefarious tricks and defeats this righteous Taoist priest, because he's after the Taoist priest's magic book, which is kind of the MacGuffin of the film, isn't it?
Right.
And I've got to say, the wire work and the foo actually, just in that fight alone, and it completely continues throughout the film for me, is fucking excellent. It's all a very high standard for 81, 82.
Choreographed by Adisung as well.
Yeah.
And Alan Choi, who plays like the government inspector character, who kind of doesn't do as much as you might expect. I was expecting he would become a bit more of an ally of Billy Chong, and it'd be Billy Chong and Alan Choi versus, but there's not too much of that, right? He's kind of a bit sidelined.
It's not really fleshed out enough, is it? There's this kind of ally thing, and there's this he's Alan Choi is helping Billy Chong out, in various bits of the film, but it's kind of there's never any sort of relationship, is there? It's just kind of
no. I'm wondering if because Adi Sung was doing the choreo again. I'll open up his page here so I maybe know what I'm talking about as I'm going along. But I'm not sure if he's that particularly well known as a choreographer either, right? So I'm wondering if this was his chance. Yes, I'll choreograph your film, but give me a more substantial part than I normally have. According to the Hong Kong Movie Database, his first pseudonym that comes up is Big Little Eye.
That makes sense.
It does, yeah. And if I'm scrolling down, martial arts director for about 20 films.
Yeah.
But nothing jumps out at me. But again, a lot of these I haven't seen actually. So I'm certainly interested to see more of his work in that field, because he, like you said, he does a good job here. Oh, he's directed 4 films.
Yeah, I think they were in the 80s, 90s, weren't they?
Yes.
90s, yeah.
4 Robbers, Escape from Kingdom, Bloody Hero, and The Son of Dragon. None of which I've seen, but
no.
But they're all automatically now on my list of things to see, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to work out as well, how you divide the choreography, because it's not just him that choreographed this. It's Alan Choi Soo Chen as well, isn't it?
Right.
Who, interestingly, because he's got a bit more of a fleshed out filmography as a choreographer, isn't he?
Oh, okay.
Because he did Rebellious Reign for a start.
So
okay. That's one I'm itching to get back to myself, actually, because I remember I have very, very good memories of Rebellious Reign. And kind of he's done some, well, he did a lot of just kind of serviceable films like Two on the Road and I think Ways of Kung Fu. So kind of serviceable kind of, pot boilers.
Right. And he also directed the film called Tough Beauty and the Sloppy Slop.
I wonder what genre that's in. Probably not the one I'm hoping for. Shot
in the Philippines.
Yes, I'm already interested.
Yeah. Who else is in it? Oh, Cynthia Khan is in it.
Okay.
I'd like to see Cynthia Khan and the Sloppy Slop.
Yes. So do we all.
Along the way, of course, Billy Chong decides to employ the help of the undead to take his revenge, right? So, and of course, Adi Sung, also has the underworld at his beck and call.
Yeah.
And we'll get to what he summons up in a minute, because it's
no, you're talking.
But Billy Chong goes to like a hunchback undertaker bloke, and basically asks him, "Can I borrow your what?" And some of them, there are some hopping vampires in this film, but not that many. They do make an appearance.
Well, they're kind of hopping vampires, aren't they? They hop for a bit,
right?
But they're not in uniform.
No, not not like you.
Well, exactly. Well, I'm the other side of that. I'm in banishing uniform.
Right.
But they're kind of these long-haired, kind of scraggly, scabby old vampires, aren't they? That do a bit of hopping.
And they haven't got the talismans.
No, they haven't got the
yellow
paper. No.
Yeah. We know what we're talking about. The yellow paper.
Yeah. But the yellow paper stops them, doesn't it? So
yes, and you remove it. Yeah.
When you're hopping about, you haven't got the yellow paper on you.
Yeah. But what I mean is they don't do the thing about putting it on and it stops them. They just they stop doing that. And also, when they're wandering through the town and stuff, they're not zombies anymore. They seem to be ghosts.
Yeah, because they're invisible.
Yeah, they kind of see through, aren't they, as well? Like
sometimes they're invisible, sometimes they're not invisible.
Yeah.
It's a bit movable.
Yeah, it's a bit, it is, yeah. But I have to say, as kind of confused, well, not confusing exactly, but it's fairly straightforward, I suppose. But it's just, the film itself seems a bit confused, or rather, the relation that Hong Kong or Taiwanese cinema has with, I don't know, I feel as if, like, maybe this makes more sense if you're more embedded in the culture. But as an outsider, you certainly, for us, I think, as horror fans, Western horror fans, we have a clear line between ghosts, zombies, and vampires. They're different things, right?
Yeah.
And here, I don't know if you should give the benefit of the doubt and it's a cultural thing, we don't understand it, or no, they're just confused. Like, I'm not quite sure which one it is. Both, maybe.
My instinct says the latter, actually.
Right.
I must say. And the other thing that, you know, this screams yet again is this is massively ripping chunks out of and using chunks of Encounter of the Spooky Kind, as I'm sure every similar film of this period did. Yes, because you've got the kind of comedy bit with the ghosts early on, haven't you? You've got the kind of chit-chatting ghosts to each other, kind of vaguely comedy, vaguely kind of pratfally, kind of, you know, two drunkards wander into the crypt and the ghosts are after them, but they're so drunk and falling over that they don't notice there are ghosts after them for ages. You know, there's that sort of thing.
It is worth as well kind of making a point of it as well, just in case people haven't picked up on it. As you said, this is post Encounters, but it is pre Mr. Vampire. It is one of the kind of handful of pre Mr. Vampire films that did have hopping vampires in, right? Which is always fascinating to me, because I've never quite got to the, and I've looked about and I've read about and I've never quite got to the bottom of what's the origin myth of the hopping vampire. If you say, like, you know, like in the Western canon of horror, for instance, you got Bram Stoker's Dracula, you got, you know, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and stuff. But with this stuff, you're not quite sure, you know, where it starts, right? Where if there are texts, you know.
Well, I guess, and this is me, you know, having absolutely no knowledge whatsoever of Chinese literature, literally none. But, you know, one would assume because the various folk beliefs that, you know, Jiangxi vampires come from, as well as all this kind of Taoist magic stuff, because those religions are still kind of extant, you know, for hundreds and thousands of years, and they have continued. You know, it's a living tradition, as opposed to, you know, something like, you know, Dracula or you know, the Wolfman or whatever, you know, that's kind of seems to be a cobbled together folk belief that's kind of been interfered with kind of over the years with various kind of invaders, Christian culture, etc. So you know, because perhaps it's so embedded in Chinese culture and religion and folk belief, then you know, it hasn't necessitated, you know, a big kind of Dracula style novel, Frankenstein style source, you know, because it's just in the culture. It's just it's already a shorthand. And to that point as well, so Adisong, one of the things that he conjures up to fight Billy Chong's zombie ghosts, vampires, whatever they are these long-tongued wizards, right? Yes.
Which is well, when I say long-tongued wizards, it's basically a couple of blokes with some paper dangling out their mouths in a tongue shape, right?
And the pointy hats, don't forget the pointy hats.
Yes, well, that's how we know they're wizards, or whatever the hell they actually are. And of course, these will be familiar to anyone who has watched the Shaolin Invincibles. The Shaolin Invincibles has slightly better looking, although not much, long-tongued wizards. as well as the kung fu fighting gorillas.
Well, yeah.
But
don't worry, listeners, it's on the list.
Yeah. We're getting
that's
Shaolin
coming.
Invincibles.
It is coming.
A simian double bill with I don't know, Bruce Lee in New Guinea or something like that.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Obviously, they did. If you'd have just seen Shaolin Invincibles or just seen this film, again, it's a good example of you just might think, oh, they just made that up. But clearly, the long-tongued wizard is a thing, right?
Oh, for sure.
And again, I've no idea, what the heritage of this kind of character is.
Yeah, and because they seem to be kind of on a different strata, don't they? They seem to be on a different strata to your kind of your common or garden ghosties and ghoulies and vampires. They seem to be kind of the super baddie, don't they?
They're like attached to a
arch baddie
or something, right? They're like, I don't know. I'm getting an eunuch feel or something like that from them. Something like that.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
With a
I hadn't thought about that,
power or something, or
yeah. But seeing as we're talking about things that our new friend Addy Sung has summoned, let's just get to the meat and the gravy, shall we?
Right.
Let's just get to the best bit of the film.
Yes. Who turns up then, Darren?
Well, funny you should mention that, Clive.
Right. Yeah.
And this is a direct link yet again.
Yeah.
It's another direct link to our previous Halloween podcast, because not only did we do a Billy Chong film last year, we also did Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, featuring none other than Dracula himself.
Count Dracula, yes.
Yes.
Very fair.
So during one of the numerous battles that Mr. Chong has with Addy Sung's magician, Addy Sung goes all out, gets the big guns out, and summons Count Dracula.
Yeah. Who brilliantly, when Addy Sung does summon him in the English dub, goes, "I'm coming!"
I didn't get that because I watched the sub version.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm wondering. So, did you have a DVD?
No, I watched it on Wu-Tang. So the one on Wu-Tang is subbed.
There's
anyway.
2 versions on Wu-Tang.
Yeah, they often do.
Okay. So, do you think there do you know what your running time was?
I can look it up.
Yeah, you do that then. Just I'm curious. I'm wondering if there's a 3rd version again, or.
Yeah, it was about an hour and a half, I can say, but I'll tell you exactly. Fill the empty air, Clive.
Yes. Well, I was going to say that. So I did have a look on both the Hong Kong movie database and the Internet movie database, but there is no credit for the white man who plays Count Dracula in Kung Fu From Beyond the Grave.
Oh, that's
so I have no idea who he is.
Yeah, it's 92 minutes.
Okay, the same as the dub then.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
So that and that's fucking glorious, isn't it? So you've got this strange, sometimes dark haired, sometimes blonde, bright white makeup, wire work, Western Count Dracula,
who doesn't like mistletoe.
Mistletoe?
Yeah, in the English dub at least. He's allergic to mistletoe.
I didn't get that at all. That's not in the
Every now and again, he brings out like a twig, which would normally be, I don't know, garlic or something, but it's obviously not garlic. It's not a clove of garlic. Although there are cloves of garlic as well. We'll get But he brandishes mistletoe in English, which I'd never heard before, which is kind of interesting because I don't know where the English dubbers would have. I don't know if they're taking the piss or if it's in the original, because it does look like mistletoe. So it's an interesting twist to our conversation about should you give this the benefit of the doubt or they're just making shit up, because I've never heard mistletoe before and I'm fairly familiar with the Dracula myth.
Yeah,
So it
same.
kind of lends fuel to maybe they are just making shit up as well.
Yeah, and let's be honest. This was filmed for £2.50
right
in probably a month.
Yeah, I mean it works well enough, but it is worth saying. As much as I would love to see, for instance, a Blu-ray of this, it is one of those films you're wondering is not going to hold up to the harsh glare of HD, right? I mean,
it will absolutely not.
You're going to see all the wires and all the makeup lines, and this benefits from a slightly murky VHS print. Right?
Yeah, although the copy I watched, the one I watched on Wu-Tang, was too murky. It was really washed out print in the kind of the cemetery scenes where it's all dark.
Right, although
very washed out and kind of blue.
The dubbed one, just to compare it, the other version I sent you, the other Japanese version, is it's weird. Like between the two of them, so the English dub on Wu-Tang is brighter, and so you could see things a bit better. But then on the other version, the longer running version, the contrasts are stronger. So somewhere between the two of them, there's like version. But
I'm not sure anyone's going to do a supercut of it anytime soon, to be fair.
No, although they might want to, because I'll get to some of the extra bits later, which are actually kind of quite interesting. But yeah, so anyway, yes, Count Dracula, it is dispatched with cloves of garlic that explode on contact.
Yeah, well, they are kind of grenade shaped, if you think about a clove of garlic, it's kind of grenade-ish shaped, isn't it?
Yes, and I'm just going to let that. Yeah, I'll skip over that. You believe that? I think you're confusing garlic with pineapples.
Well, yes, yeah, I could be. To be fair,
garlic size, pineapple shape.
Yes,
equals grenade.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
There we go.
Yes,
Sidekick.
Shut up.
But yeah, so here's a question for you then, because you did a pretty good job of the overall kind of story. So let's jump about then. So there's a lot of a Taoist like sorcery and rituals and stuff like that, which I'm sure you're probably the same. I'm an absolute sucker for anything like that.
Yeah, I can watch unlimited amounts of Taoist sorcerers fucking about with magic and spirits and ghosts and blood and all that stuff.
I don't know what they're doing. Spit some blood on a bowl of rice, put it under a chicken, and burn the chicken's head, and then some ash up a pig's asshole. I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Oh, well, actually, talking of that, we should I do want to delve a little bit into, because this is a large part of the film. I mean, there's probably a good 20 to 30 minutes of just Taoist shit.
Right.
Isn't there? And one of the
don't try and blind me with your technical language, Darren.
That's it. Yeah, so sorry about that, Clive. I went a bit highbrow there, didn't I?
You did, sorry. Taoist shit.
Yeah. So so one of the kind of subplots of this is there are murders going on. So wherever Billy Chong stays, there seems to be a murder. And so Lieh is the kind of the main villain of the piece, but you've got Adi Sung as his kind of magician henchman, much the same as Encounters of the Spooky Kind. So the main villain of the piece, really, in Encounters of the Spooky Kind, is Samuel's boss, who has hired the magician. But anyway, so Adi Sung is kind of subordinate to Lieh, and Lieh has hired Adi Sung to basically make him invulnerable. And in order to do that, he has to collect a certain amount of hearts, human hearts, that have to have been collected during orgasm.
It's a great exploitation ploy, isn't it?
It is. I only wish there was a little bit more tit and a little bit more gore.
Well, Darren.
Well, that's what I was hoping for.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
I'm guessing from the running time, because everything else matched up perfectly, about 3 minutes of it.
Oh, great! Yeah.
So basically, for instance, when the inspector goes and they uncover the dead bodies are topless for the start. So there's that, and then there's a few sex scenes. I think there's one even with the hunchback undertaker getting it on with someone.
Is that?
Yeah, and there's another bit where, there's the scene where Lieh kind of is peeping about at a couple having sex. That bit is much longer, it's extended. And again, it's all just tits and stuff. But it's funny because then that scene is much more that Lieh just being an old perv and peeping a hole in the wall. So that plays out quite. But yes, there is more. Just more tits. Which is good because it seems pointless. Like if you're going to set up, the fact that these hearts must be ripped out of young women at the point of orgasm. Yeah, you don't have tits in it, then it's kind of a bit of a wasted, isn't it?
No, I agree. I would much have preferred a kind of referring back to other things we've done in Ychyfus. I would have preferred a Ninja Hunter level of nudity and gore.
Right. Yeah.
So that would have suited me a bit more.
Interesting. I was trying to figure out as well, because like I said, these were both Japanese VHS releases, and the subtitles were identical. Yeah. So I've no idea, like, when one was issued, when the other one was issued. Why did this one have the nudity? And was it? Because obviously the versions that played around the world as well didn't have that nudity. I don't remember it from watching it. I don't remember what print we watched back in the day when we first watched.
Well, it was Eastern Heroes.
Was it?
Eastern Heroes released. Oh, actually, no. Eastern Heroes released Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave. They may or may not have released.
Which is the film we're talking about?
Sorry. I meant Eastern Heroes definitely did Kung Fu Zombie.
Yes, they did. Yeah. No, I don't think this is because I remember watching. I think you had a crappy VHS copy of this. It might even have been the Japanese one of these versions we watched. I don't.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
But I don't remember the nudity.
No.
So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if it was. Obviously, they shot it at the same time, and they obviously had certain markets in mind, and it just didn't. It's interesting. In the past couple of days, I've done this twice, just quite by coincidence. I was also watching the El Santo film, The Treasure of Dracula, which they've recently unearthed the thought to be lost sexy version. So you've got the black and white version, and then you've got a color sexy version, which has a lot of, and Dracula. So it's the same, a lot of Dracula and a lot of nudity in it.
I'm interested.
I was watching it, and there's something quite, you feel almost sacrilegious. You feel as if El Santo wasn't pleased. And I think maybe that's what happened was, I think either the scenes were shot without his knowledge, or he put his foot down and tried to get it buried. Apparently there is a rumor that's exactly what happened. Because it didn't fit his, wholesome image. But
it was very much about image in that. World,
but there's such a charge from watching El Santo film that suddenly it's just nudity, but it just seems so much easier because it's El Santo.
Forbidden Santo.
And it's the same actresses and it's the same actors playing Dracula. But suddenly Dracula's like groping topless corpses and stuff. So it's quite cool.
You need to point me towards that.
All right. Yeah.
Anyway,
so the point is, obviously they did prepare versions sometimes, and then for whatever reason they just didn't get seen, right? Or not in some territories, or
But the Japanese version aside, a lot of the Taoist stuff that goes on, and particularly around these hearts, is that you've got some really, really cool kind of Taoist ritual, magical stuff in there, where he kind of sticks some hearts in a bowl, does some, Taoist shenanigans,
right?
With lighting candles and lighting incense with his fingers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Spitting blood on Loli.
Yeah.
But also setting fire to these hearts and then melting them into this liquid.
Yeah, no, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, it's bubbling that he drinks and then spits on Loli.
Yeah.
It's kind of, there's some
that
cool
is that is the stuff I would like to see. It's a shame you can't see it a bit clearer, right? Just to see it. Yeah. Also, so they don't actually. I don't think they mention it, but I'm guessing there's a scene where I can't. It's Adi Sung, and they lure him to what I'm assuming is like a brothel when he's at the height of powers, and then all the prostitutes come out on the balcony, and they chuck things at him, and it diminishes his power. Are they supposed to be sanitary napkins? Are they sanitary?
Yeah, I think the prevailing view, because there's an earlier scene as well. So there's an earlier scene where I think it's Adi Sung. If it's not a ghost or a vampire, fairly sure it's Adi Sung, accosts Billy Chong and his girlfriend in the cemetery.
Yeah, she's not in it much.
No, well, I'm gonna get to that as well. Because there are some seriously unfleshed out characters in this film.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a bit where Billy Chong's basically losing the fight against Adi Sung, and Adi Sung for some reason grabs the girl's waistline, like her pants basically, and like pulls her trousers from her body.
Yeah.
The elasticated waist of her trousers from her body. Right. And then some green smoke floats out.
Yeah.
Seemingly her bum. But my interpretation of that is actually she's probably on her period, and that's taboo for Taoist priests.
Right, yes. Well,
that's how I interpreted that.
I have seen it in other films, and is it The Dead and the Deadly has a whole set piece around
that's
it?
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm guessing, but as far as I know, at least not in the English dub, I don't know in the subtitles, they didn't outright come out and say, okay, ladies, throw your tampons at him or anything like that. It's just assume what they're doing.
Yeah, and they don't even look like anything sanitary at all. They look like flannels.
Yeah, well, there's no, not to be gross, but there's no like blood stains on them, right?
No, but they're not even like the shape, the shape that would be useful if you had to use it as a sanitary product.
I don't know. I'm guessing in those days, maybe it was just a towel, right? I don't know if they had sophisticated kind of menstrual technology. A phrase I never thought I would use.
So, well, yeah, but however,
that's going in the show description.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. However, they did have string, didn't they?
Well, yeah, I'm not saying they didn't have them.
They could have actually tied it into a shape that would hug the area.
Right.
And also be more absorbent because it's thicker. So you wouldn't just put the flannel down there, would you?
Well, I'm not going to argue the case because I feel as if we might be, this is a territory we're that familiar with, to be honest with you.
No. We perhaps should abandon this.
So you're saying she didn't fact she had a stinky pussy or something?
Yeah, I think personally, I don't think that scene was her farting.
Right.
I think that was her being on her period.
Right.
Which led to supernatural gases.
Right.
Normally invisible.
Yeah.
To humans that would have affected more magical beings like the magician.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it, as well? The one, if she farts at him, that's funny. But a stinky pussy is less amusing.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily stinky. Well, it's not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm saying on her period, taboo, priest. So I kind of get that.
Right.
So I think that's the effect that they.
Yeah, it's a manifest.
But I could be wrong.
Gas is a manifestation of.
Yeah, so it could just as easily have been a laser beam,
right.
a fanny laser beam, coming from
right.
the excreted vaginal wall laser beam.
Yeah. But basically,
as we say, well out of our depth here.
Yeah, but basically, I think menstrual blood is in some way as the garlic is to Dracula is to the Taoist evil sorcerer or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's highlighted as well, because again, referring back to other films we've reviewed on here, we go back to Ninja and the Dragon's Den, and particularly Ninja and the Dragon's Den. What defeats the wizard at the end of Ninja and the Dragon's Den is tits, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's femininity, and feminine sexuality.
Right. I suppose
that
ties into we mentioned eunuchs as well earlier as well, right? That ties into that whole thing as well. Also interesting to note, as we're talking kind of mythology and kind of rituals and stuff as well, the fact that they remove the scalps from corpses of the dead, so that apparently spirits can't re-enter. Although that doesn't seem to be true, right? Because assuming that Undertaker has been scalping all the victims, but at the end, when the spirits rise and jump around going, "Give me back my heart, give me back my heart, give me back my heart," which is quite right. I'm assuming they're able, they've been possessed by spirits, right?
Well, yeah, but they haven't been buried properly.
Oh, that's true. That's from the mass grave, isn't it?
Yeah, so they're from a mass grave.
Right. Yeah, the mass grave is so. Also, we were talking about how this film's a bit of a podge as well in some ways, and so it seems as if Lowley is going to be defeated despite his invincible skin, armor skin, and all these ghosts, and then he just kind of runs away, and the film just fades out, and then picks up in the morning. No, it doesn't.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry, that's right. Yeah, that's not the end of the film, though.
No. But he runs off, and the film fades out. The scene fades out. Yeah. And then all of a sudden in the morning, you've got Billy Chong running to the mass grave.
Yeah, and then they just meet up and have a chat, and then don't they?
Yeah, it's very weird.
It is a strange one. But talking about the scalps, actually, did you interpret this the same way as me? So there seemed to be what I think it was what Lowley was running away from initially is there seemed to be a load of scalps on a table or on a coffin,
right?
That turned into fireballs.
Yes, yeah.
And I think they were the fireballs that were chasing Lowley.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't sure exactly if they were souls or sprites or they might be the scalps.
But I remember noticing that they came from this table or this altar or this coffin that seemed to be kind of hairy, and then they turned into fireballs. So I think they were actually the scalps of the dead that kind of the righteous dead maybe that kind of went after Lowley. Yeah.
I mean, a viewer would be forgiven for not exactly knowing quite what is going on in this film.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. And to be fair, this film is a lot easier to understand than its kind of companion piece that we reviewed last year.
Which is that's true.
Kung Fu Zombie.
Yeah. I mean, both are a bit of a. I mean, both are a lot of fun. I like both films, I have to say. I enjoyed both, but so this ending as well is a little bit feels as if they'd run out of time or kind of couldn't really tire. So he's got this invincible skin thing going on, and at a certain point he decides to test it. So a bunch of people attack him with weapons, and there's two guys poke him with spears or something in the chest, right?
Yeah.
And wounded, so it hasn't totally worked. So I'm not sure if are they, because he was scarred prior to finally attaining this invincibility, are they supposed to be like chinks in his armor?
That's how I interpreted it, but it's a bit of a fudge, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So he has them. He has them taped up. He has like a couple of bandages on his breast, which leads Billy Chong to go, "Oh, are you wearing a bra or something? Are you sure?" Or something like that. Yeah. So eventually, the way he kind of defeats Loli is basically just by repeatedly punching him in the chest, right? Which is, I don't know about you. That felt a little bit like, oh, that's not a very satisfying weak point. That like,
no, I agree with you. I think there should have been something magical, some sort of magical chink in his armor, as opposed to this is the bit we missed sort of thing. And
because it just seems so obvious, like up front and center. Oh, I'll just punch him in. I'll punch him in the wound, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Although actually, that's not the way Loli dies, is it? In the end,
no.
Which I found quite funny, actually, because eventually, after Billy Chong's had at Loli and kind of pretty much bested him, he's still alive, and then the ghosts kind of rise up from the graveyard and essentially just bury him alive.
Yeah, it's quite nice to see.
That's pretty good. Although there is a very, very obvious stunt double when he's getting buried alive.
Well, I was wondering as well about this. I mean, he still had a good few years in him, but I couldn't help did Loli seem a little bit ill or something to you in this film? Like, he seemed a little bit, I don't know, he didn't seem fully healthy to me. There was something a bit not Loli at his...
Well, he was playing a character that wasn't healthy as well, wasn't he? Because
true.
At the start of the film, it's like he's got a heart condition or something, isn't it? It's like he's got some sort of illness that stops him from fighting, isn't he?
Right, yes.
He seems to get over with the Taoist monks' help.
Yeah, I might be reading too much into it, but he did genuinely... I was wondering if they wrote that in, because I don't know enough about Loli, if he was like ill at this point in his life, or if he was, because he was a fucking busy man. You can imagine he would have gone to work, he was at death's door, right?
But I mean, Loli was on this set for probably fucking 2 weeks, if that. If not a few days, looking at the screen time he's got.
Yeah. It's always a pleasure to see him, though. I mean,
Like, he's in a lot of physical fights as well. I mean, he's definitely cutting the mustard as far as physicality goes.
Right, but like I said, in that final fight with Billy Chong, he's not necessarily doing all the shapes and stuff that you might see him otherwise.
No, but he does earlier on, though. So he does earlier on. So maybe he was, he had an illness or whatever. But also it could be a plot point because, this is the point at which Loli is actually defeated, and everyone's worked out his weaknesses and his enemies have come back to haunt him. And so he shouldn't necessarily be that invincible at that point,
Is that him or his ghost or his corpse? So there's like a coda at the very end of the film, right? There's like a surprise ending with like this corpse flying straight up out of a grave, which is Is that him?
Yeah, I'm guessing so.
I quite like
it. Doesn't even look. It looks like a shuttlecock.
Yeah, it's great.
Rather than a corpse. It's just this thing that comes out of a grave. Yeah.
Another good example of something that probably wouldn't stand up to a HD transfer as well.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, it's probably like a Barbie doll with Loli's face.
Yeah. So this was directed by Lieh, a kind of familiar face. You've seen him as an extra in lots of things, and he had quite the directorial career. According to the Hong Kong Movie Database, 55 titles. He did, a handful of kung fu films at this time. And also, interestingly, he seems to have been the director who did some of the new scenes for film mark releases.
Yeah.
So he did a whole bunch of that stuff. And then 90s, 2000s, he's done a lot of these films that are like, there seems to be a certain type of Hong Kong film from the 90s that, as far as I can tell, maybe didn't play theatrically, went straight to VCD, and therefore weren't legally obligated to have any sort of subtitles on them. So have never been seen, right? Like he directed several in this Street Kids series.
Yeah.
There's like 6 of the Street Kids, Las Vegas Encounter, Rape to Kill, Dangerous Run, Speedy Storm. I've no idea what the fuck these films are.
No.
And I've never seen, anyone talk about them or put them up on torrent sites or anything like that.
No,
So,
they're not there, are they?
no, so it seems like a bit of a kind of lost world of, I guess if you're a VCD collector, maybe you might know about these things, but
Yeah.
Potentially interesting. But I'm guessing if it's straight to VCD, cheapy 90s, then I don't know how much treasure is to be found.
Well, yeah, there's got to be something, isn't there? I mean, there's got to be. I mean, because the thing is these people who directed mad shit like this, didn't stop being mad, did they?
No, unless there was some new medication on the market.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So so I think there's some untapped potential there, for searching out, but yeah, I mean, as I'm getting the feeling we're kind of winding down a bit on on Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave. But what I wanted to bring up, and again, these two films are always seen in parallel with each other, in comparison with each other, which are Kung Fu Zombie we did last year and Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave, and they're incredibly different films. Yes, they are actually. As much as they share in common, they also there's a freneticism or something to Kung Fu Zombie, which is slightly. I mean, as chintzy as some of this is, it does kind of play out in a slightly more like a stately fashion, or it's got a proper movie pacing, but whereas Kung Fu Zombies like it's like a crazy. Kung Fu Zombie is switched is up to 11.
Right.
For every single minute of its running time.
Right.
This one is a bit peaks and troughs. Yes.
Although I enjoy both equally in a way, because I think what Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave lacks in a kind of crazed vitality, it is kind of a bit more well put together. So
it is. And this is what I wanted to get to. And when we reviewed Kung Fu Zombie, I was really pissed off at the kind of undercranking of the choreography on Kung Fu Zombie, and it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the Fu in this is fucking world standard. It's fucking excellent.
Yeah, but it is lacking, as kind of mad as it is in a way. It's lacking that. This is a bit more. I don't know. This is a kind of slightly scary homeless dude who might follow you home at a distance late at night through alleys.
Yeah.
Not someone running at you with a meat cleaver going Ebola, which is Kung Fu Zombie. Right?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And if we were gonna put the two head to head, and we may as well, seeing as we've done a kind of a year-long double bill of them, really, then I think I enjoyed Kung Fu Zombie a lot more than this.
I don't know. I think I enjoyed them equally, really, but in such different ways. And they would actually make quite a good double bill because they are so different. Like it wouldn't be too much of the same thing. They're different enough that
Oh,
you
yeah.
could enjoy the different flavors of both, I think.
Totally. But I think there are things that drag Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave down. I think there's this whole there a lot of subplots in this.
Right.
There are a lot of kind of tertiary characters, you know, like the inspector character,
right,
who's in disguise, who helps Billy Chong, you know, like this, you know, the daughter of the hunchback, and it's kind of like, well,
Stinky Fanny.
you know, say again.
And Stinky Fanny.
Stinky Fanny, yeah. Well, period Fanny, you know.
Right.
It's not her fault, you know. It's a biological process.
Well, I mean, you're taking it for granted. She might also just, you know, not look after herself. She might be, you know.
That could be true. That could be true. And that could be, in fact, a strategy.
Well, yeah,
you know,
thinking ahead.
Exactly, yeah. Think a month ahead.
Yeah.
Anyway. So so I really enjoyed this. I really did enjoy Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave. But I did find there were quite a lot of dips. You know, a lot of dips in my attention.
I think the way I would characterize it might be, you could stick Kung Fu Zombie on at like a party.
Yeah.
And people would have fun with it. I think Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave would benefit from concentration and sitting down and actually following it as well as you can. It's not gonna, you know, it'll get it, if you put it on the part in the background, it would just get ignored, I think. You know,
I agree.
It would lose interest.
Yeah.
Whereas Kung Fu Zombie, I think, would, you can imagine people drinking and shouting at the screen and watching along with it. Whereas Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave is a bit more of a watch it by yourself late at night, maybe smoke a joint, get into it kind of thing.
Yeah. And but you know, again, I repeat, you know, Adi, what's his name? Adi Sung.
Adi Sung. Yeah. Are you not tempted to sing Adi Sung?
How did I forget that? Anyway, but I think Adi Sung is a fucking revelation in this film.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to see him actually getting. I will definitely try and seek out some more things that he was, you know, see what he was more involved in. Maybe some of the stuff that he's directed, for example. Yeah.
But but you know, again, because as I say, I was annoyed with the Kung Fu choreography, or rather the undercranking in Kung Fu Zombie. But the Fu in this, and there's a lot of Fu in this. You know, this is an out and out Kung Fu film with additional, you know, with you know, supernatural elements. But the Kung Fu in this is fucking excellent, you know, and it's got that. I think this is why, you know, it feels like Taiwan. You know, we don't know where it was filmed, but it feels like Taiwan because it's got that kind of, you know, kind of Robert Thai kind of, you know, Taiwanese kind of flavor to the choreography, and particularly the wire work.
Yes,
you know,
but it's
very decent wire work in this.
Yeah, but it's not as over the top as a Kung Fu Zombie or a, you know, an.
It's not. No.
But he's taken those kind of skills and abilities and toned it down a little bit, right? Like yeah. I want to start off by saying it's a shame that there was no Welsh language release of this next film we're going to be talking about.
Okay, then.
Because if it was, it would be called Yr Heddlu Hyd, which is a fantastic title, don't you think? Does
roll off the tongue somewhat, doesn't it?
Yr Heddlu Hyd. if anyone over at S4C
Yeah.
is thinking of a new series,
Yeah.
there you go. Take that for free.
Heddlu Hyd.
Heddlu Hyd. I think that would be, that's a good idea actually. Like this magic cop, but with, you know, Celtic mythology and
Yeah.
that's actually a very good idea. Why did I just give that away? I should have done that myself.
Yeah. Well, that's all right. Well, it's recorded now. Your copyright is now recorded.
That's true. This is true. Right. Heddlu Hyd.
Yeah. Heddlu Hyd.
Is there any Welsh language content on Netflix actually?
I don't think so. Not on my Netflix that I'm aware of.
The only thing I'm thinking is, what was that show that the crime show, and they did it in Welsh and in English? Hinterland.
Hinterland, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm assuming in the UK you can access the Welsh language version of it on Netflix. That was a Netflix.
Well, it was kind of bilingual, I seem to remember. It was kind of not Welsh language, but there was a lot of Welsh in it.
All right, I thought it was like they recorded two versions. I thought there were two versions.
Oh, you could be right. I only ever saw the English version, but it had lots of Welsh in it. So
right.
Yeah.
Anyway, whoever did that, next project,
Heddlu Hyd.
Yes.
Heddlu Hyd with hopping guys or something. Hopping. Yeah.
We've been away for too long, haven't we, Darren?
Well, yes.
Hopping farmers.
That's the one. There we are. Hopping tractors.
So, yes. So we need to find the Welsh Lam Ching Ying, because this is a Lam Ching Ying vehicle.
Well, I'm just going to say, I have got very expressive eyebrows.
You do actually. You do.
I have. Yes.
Yeah, they're not bad, but they're not quite. Well, this is the thing with Lam Ching Ying as well, because embarrassingly, I don't actually know this, and I'm not sure if this is common knowledge or not. But are they his eyebrows? Because they seem to be his eyebrows.
Well, funnily enough, I was watching this evening,
right,
with Geraldine, and we had that exact conversation.
Right, because they do look like his eyebrows, right?
They can't be his eyebrows.
No?
Well, okay. Well, we saw Lam Ching Ying last month in 2 films.
Right.
So, and he didn't seem to have those eyebrows in those 2 films.
Yeah, but they could have been Lam. Cut your
you need to shave those.
Yeah, because you don't.
You're looking a bit Taoist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You look like a Taoist priest, and you're a soldier. So
come on. Yeah, soldier up. Get your short back and sides and your eyebrows done.
Yeah, exactly. So the curtains match the drapes. No,
that's the one. Well,
carpet. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so Lam Ching Ying, who of course, if anyone doesn't know, Lam Ching Ying rose to fame really for being starring in the Mr. Vampire films, the Taoist priest, right?
Yeah.
The character who, and then basically went on to play that character in, well, official Mr. Vampire series, of which this isn't, I don't think.
It's Mr. Vampire 5 in some iterations.
Right.
Yeah.
But then there were other Mr. Vampire 5. Yeah, but it's not a Mr. Vampire film.
No.
Primarily because it doesn't actually have hopping vampires in, which is, I think is what you need from a Mr. Vampire film.
Absolutely, yeah.
But Lam Ching Ying did go on to be in countless Mr. Vampire rip-offs and copies and films like this, where he basically plays, an expert in, if he's not a priest, then he is an expert in Taoist magic. In this case, he's also a cop, hence magic cop.
Yes.
Heddlu Hyd.
Yeah.
You're
not letting the Heddlu Hyd go.
I like it. It only just popped into my head now, and I'm
Yeah.
So this is kind of, as you mentioned off air, this is kind of stretching our remit a little bit, right? This isn't strictly our core territory, but then again, we're kind of open for expansion.
Yeah. there's at least a little bit of kung fu in it. However, it is primarily a horror kind of, magic-y vampire film.
See, I guess, yeah. I mean, it is worth pointing out as well that, of course, Lam Ching-ying could do all that stuff because he was one of the 7 Little Fortunes or 7 Lucky Stars or whatever the fuck they were called. Right?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't the fortune.
Oh no.
No, I think. I should have researched this, but I'm fairly sure Lam Ching-ying was what's her name? Fung Fuck Fa something. No, I've got that wrong. So he's from this. Yeah, that's yeah. No, hang on. Fang Fok Fa, I think. Anyway,
Fang Fok Fa, you're right, yeah. Lam Ching-ying began his performing career as a student of China opera under Madame Fan Fok Fa.
There you go. Yeah, with Chong Fat and...
Right, yeah, okay, yes, I got confused. I think the reason I was confused is because he's in Painted Faces.
Yeah, well, and he's part of Sammo Hung's stunt team, and Sammo obviously is 7 Fortunes, so yeah.
Yeah, so no, it was an ignorant mistake on my part. Very easy to confuse the two, but of course we should respect the very different disciplines, right? And he primarily played girls as well on stage, or women, right? Because of his slender figure. He's dead now, of course, just in case anyone didn't know. Died in 1997. Was it that long ago? 97. He was he was only 46.
Yeah, he had some terrible cancer. I think it was like liver cancer.
Yeah, liver cancer. Yeah.
Because
the thing is as well, because it's interesting. Obviously, he started off playing female characters on stage, and then I suppose because of the slender figure, he almost played like older, avuncular kind of like That's amazing to me. He died at 46, right? Which means he would have been in his mid-30s when he did Mr. Vampire.
Yeah.
And you would have sworn he was like
40s, 50s.
At least.
Yeah.
He's always playing these older kind of wise, slightly grumpy figures, right?
Yeah. Well, think about Prodigal Son as well. So if he was 46 in 97, that means he was born in 61. Which means he was 29 when he played Leung. Is it Leung Jan? Whoever. No, it's not Leung Jan, is it? Because that's
you mean 19?
Sorry.
You mean 19, not 29 when he was in, or 21 when he was in.
No, 29. So he'd have been 29 when he did Prodigal Son.
Oh yeah, 51. Sorry, not 61. Yeah.
So yeah,
this is good, isn't it? Two confused old blokes podcast.
That's it. Trying to do maths. two men well into their 40s trying to work out how old someone was in 1981.
Yes, it's why everyone listens to us, Aaron.
Yeah.
This content.
Join us next month when we'll try punctuation.
So anyway, so he plays this cop who's called in, I suppose, basically because it starts off. There's a bunch of police characters, played by people you don't really know that much. That's Wilson Lamb and Michael Mew, right, as his sidekick, Darren, and
I'll have you know I'm a consultant on this episode.
So there's like a zombie woman in a restaurant, who they're there. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. They're on some kind of undercover thing, right? I'm not quite sure how this begins really. And there's a woman.
Like a drugs bust, isn't it? So it's like a drugs bust.
And she's there suspiciously sitting with a briefcase. And the cops are, to be fair, I would call this police harassment, really. They have no cause to stop and search her at all. And they're like, give us that fucking briefcase. And of course, it turns out that she's the undead and she drags him down the street and they shoot her and she doesn't die and everything. But still, they didn't know that. So
No, until they shot her.
yeah, there's excessive force for sure.
Yeah, to be fair, a policeman did handcuff himself to her ankle, and she continued to drag him down the stairs and into the street in front of a moving car.
Well, there is that. Yes.
Not that I'm particular fan of police brutality. However,
right.
I would say these are exceptional circumstances.
No, it's not as popular as it once was. Police.
No, it's not. No, certainly not. Back in the good old 90s.
Yeah, or even the Sweeney or something like that, right?
Pre-Rodney King.
Yes.
I'm joking, by the way, in case anyone wants to get on my case on that.
Well, I don't know, but you can't see because it's audio. But Darren is actually, I can see him. He's actually punching a little doll he's got with Rodney King's face on it, hitting it with a little baton. So don't believe a word he says. Anyway,
no, I wouldn't do that because I'm a Taoist priest and he's already dead.
Yeah, that's true. You'd wait until, and then you'd bring him back and put his heart down a chicken's throat.
I would at least spit some chicken's blood.
Right.
On the corpse of Rodney King to resurrect him.
Right.
To avenge all the other people.
Yes, there we go. Yes.
Had the same thing happen to them.
Well saved there.
See?
And then we wouldn't have had to have riots if they'd have gone the Taoist way.
Well, yeah, you've got to let it flow over you in the Taoist way.
Yeah.
But I'm not making any comment on that because we're getting fucking...
I think we should run away very quickly from this topic.
So what happens in the film then, Clive?
Right. Well then. That's a very good question, Darren. So they're called in because there's magic. Obviously, there's something unexplained going on. And basically, it's Michiko Nishiwaki. It is Nishikawa, isn't it?
Nishiwaki.
Oh, is it Nishiwaki? That's an unusual name. Yeah, Michiko Nishiwaki. Who was obviously a Japanese actress who was famous in Hong Kong for a little bit. She seems to have been popular, much more so than she was back at home.
She's part of this kind of girls with guns thing.
Yes,
in late 80s, early 90s, isn't she?
Interestingly, even though her image isn't in the same way as Cynthia Rothrock's fans kind of are not really out to see her naked. They kind of want to see her fight and be cool in that similar way. But if anyone out there is interested, Michiko Nishiwaki was in a Nikatsu Pink film before she went to Hong Kong.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. So you can look out for that if you are so inclined.
Yeah, Clive and I will be corresponding offline.
There we go then. So she's up to, I don't know what she's doing really, but she seems to be using this kind of ice magic where
it's ice and flowers, isn't it?
And string.
And string.
Yes. So she kind of seems to put these, I don't know. There's one quite cool scene when they're fighting, the heroes are fighting a zombie and like a ice kind of icicle, yeah, pops out the top of the guy's head, which is cool, and it made sense to me because it was like in as much as cinematic lineage sense, because it's like the stakes they put in zombies' heads in the Black Magic films, right? Yeah, it's just made from ice. So I kind of got that. I was like, oh, okay, something I can relate to, and that's a cool image. But I think that's the only point. You don't see anyone hammering like an icicle into anyone's head or anything like that. No,
well, it seems to be because that scene you're talking about, how she seems to get the icicle in the corpse's head seems to be through someone else's head. Right. So she kind of summons the icicle, doesn't she, with some leaves and some water. Right. And then she like traps someone's soul or something in the icicle and then puts it in a different corpse's head. And then the corpse in the morgue wakes up and attacks the people. Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of transference going on, isn't there? And, and the string as well, when she manipulates someone with a string, then someone else somewhere else
like a marionette kind of mix the movements. It's potentially quite. I mean, it is quite. Some of that stuff is quite fun to watch, but it doesn't quite live up to its potential, I feel, just because you're not quite sure what the rules are.
Yeah.
Or it's like we were talking about, we like the Taoist shit, as you put it. And that stuff is fun in old school Kung Fu films because you could enjoy it just for, oh, wow, what the hell is it? There's chickens and blood and, oh, now there's some lasers coming out of a mirror.
Yeah.
And then the fighting starts and it's like, oh, it's all spectacle and cool. So it doesn't really, you don't really care if you don't understand it.
Yeah.
But in this case, it seems a bit more, because it's a different era and it's a different type of film and it's this kind of police procedural and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It seems almost like it's more intrinsic to following the story. So if you don't understand the rules of how it works, it's a bit more difficult to get. I found it a bit more difficult to get absorbed into the story because I'm not quite sure what's going on. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Actually, I enjoyed the kind of, you know, the little vignettes, you know, the little magic-y vignettes, like the marionette stuff, like the icicle stuff,
right?
All the flower stuff.
Yeah.
Although there were two parts in the film where there's some sort of thing where she blows some flower petals at someone.
Yeah.
And then their image, and then they disappear.
Right.
Then they like disintegrate and then go into a cat's eye.
Yeah. And then there's a bit of cruelty to a cat.
Oh yeah, there's some serious animal cruelty to this. Yeah, some cats.
The cat like hanging in. It's still alive, but you can just see it. It's not in a good mood, is it? It's like
no. But I think in that scene the cat's meant to be dead, but the cat's obviously not dead, and it's just hanging.
Not just pissed off. Yeah. Well, I suppose we should be pleased they didn't kill a cat. So
I agree. Yeah. I agree. But there's some strange stuff in this where it's none of it is kind of explained. You know, because you've got this, so it's kind of Mishiko Nishiwaki, sorry, I had to read that off a bit of paper. So she plays this kind of drug kingpin, but also you know, Taoist sorceress, you know, evil sorceress. So she's the one who kind of reanimates the corpse to do the drug deal, and Billy Chong is her henchman, who has actually never looked better in any film I've seen him in.
Yeah, that's true.
Fucking amazing in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the cops are out to take them down because, you know, they've discovered these corpses are doing drug deals. And yeah, there's a whole lot of kind of cool reanimating corpses stuff going on, marionette stuff going on, you know, possession of living people going on, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of really fucking disjointed and kind of,
it is, yeah,
quite make sense, does it?
No, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it was a bit more jam-packed with spectacle. I mean, there's long stretches. I mean, the whole, so Lam Ching-ying has a very cute daughter, not daughter, like niece or something, Wong Mei-hwa, who was once Mrs. Eric Tang. And Eric Tang.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, Eric Tang is a presenter on this as well.
Okay, I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's yes, fetching young lady, and she falls for one of the cops who's a bit of a twat. So there's this whole, you know, thing where Lam Ching-ying is trying to keep them apart, and you know, they're going to stay together in the same apartment, so he insists on staying there as well. And it's not funny, and it's not, you know, it's not particular. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it does feel a little bit like, yeah, come on, let's get through.
there's a good 20 minutes of this film that is in whatever his name is, Wilson Lamb's apartment.
Yeah.
That's very 80s because he goes to the toilet in a phone booth.
Yeah. And he's got an electronic key to get in as well, which is made.
That's it. Yeah. And there's all sorts of malarkey about erecting curtains and blinds.
Yeah.
And hammocks and and yeah, it's not very funny stuff.
No, not at all.
So there's a good 20 minutes there that's kind of just kind of lame kind of comedy, doesn't really establish anything.
I mean, it's not. I'm used to that. I'm used to a Hong Kong movie suddenly stop being dead for a bit of lame comedy for a bit.
Yeah.
But it just seems like a bit of a shit. Like you said, if they'd got rid of that, and if there was either if they'd made the magic stuff clearer, or if they just had more of it, then I think the film would like. I quite like Magic Cop, but I feel the first time I saw it, and this time as well, I've always felt, as one of the reasons I want to go back and rewatch it, actually, because I was wondering, now that I know what to expect, I might be, more favorable. I get the feeling it's a film I want to like more than I actually do.
Yeah, I feel the same, actually. And I despite its problems, I do actually like it.
Yeah, I like it as well.
Film,
but it's not quite what it could have been. No,
it's not there. Yeah,
there's a certain amount of special pleading on my part for it, I think.
Yeah.
Just wanting it to be. I mean, the bits that are good, and again to this notion of, are they just making shit up, or what's going on here? Then, but also this is just so imaginative that I don't really care. The opening scene where they're like burning effigies and stuff during the Ghost Month, and they accidentally put out a fire with water, so then there's a ghost, and he tries to expel the ghost, and I've never seen this in it. So this ghost is spinning about its leaves or something first.
It's like the fire, isn't it? It's like the fire itself that's been put out, isn't it?
And then he manages to funnel it through a broken glass bottle into a wall, and then the wall bulges, and there's this like thing inside a wall rushing around until he sets the wall on fire and puts a sheet. And I'm like, what's going on? What the fuck is going on? But that's fine. I don't mind that, knowing what's going on, because it's very kinetic and fast-paced, and it's got good effects, and it's stuff I've never seen before. So that's pretty fine. So yeah, if they'd have had that level, I'm wondering if they found it a bit like, because that stuff feels very old world, right? Like it belongs in a period film.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what they tried to do and bring it into the modern day context. But once they do that, it's a little bit like, oh, what would this sorceress be up to now? Well, there's nothing more 80s than drug running, right? But if you think about it, why? It seems like the most roundabout, stupid way to smuggle drugs.
Well, in a funny way. No, but in a funny way. That's for me, that's the bit of the plot that makes the most sense.
Okay.
Because if in most of these films, particularly the period films, you're stuck in a hut somewhere in the middle of nowhere, up to your nefarious deeds, trying to summon an army of zombies to take over a village or whatever.
Right.
Whereas in the modern day, actually, it makes loads of sense that you would be a sorceress who can raise the dead. So why not make $1 million Hong Kong dollars by sending a corpse to do a drug deal without any risk to you?
Yeah, but I'd send
so it kind of makes sense to me.
I might be overthinking it, but I'd send them out to do like bank robberies or something like that, rather than like a drug deal seems a slightly too complex thing for a corpse to be involved with, right? Like,
but maybe a bank robbery is just beyond the limit of the corpse, whereas handing over a briefcase is a little bit more manageable.
More research has to be done into this, Darren.
I agree.
The criminal utility of the living, dead, or possessed.
I agree.
Yeah.
I concur with you. I concur, Dr. Clive. I concur.
Right.
But yeah, but I do, but I do feel you're right. Exactly what you say is that, you know, we're in kind of, and you know, the film knows this, and the film is trying to do this to update this kind of, you know, Taoist magic, you know, traditional, or not even traditional until the mid-70s, you know, horror genre in Hong Kong to the modern day. And it's kind of, the way they do this is by being in a police station a lot of the time, and for some reason having innocent women's asses slapped by this kind of fairly creepy Wilson Lamb character.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why Wong Mei-Wah falls for him, really. Like,
no, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No,
because there's a bit of Weinstein in there, I think.
Right.
But anyway, but it's but yeah, there's a lot of time taken up with that. But the when we're not in the police station, and when we're not in the apartment, you know, things are cracking along quite nicely.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of nice little set pieces.
Yeah, there's just, I think what it might be is, if they'd have done if Magic Cop had been a huge hit, and that it inspired a whole raft of, you know, modern day combined with ancient sorcery stuff, then I think we'd maybe be less interested, because there'd be a whole bunch of other films, and maybe other films that did it better. But because this is kind of, I'm trying to think if there's any other examples, but this seems to be, if it doesn't stand alone, there's not many films like this, right? So I think that's why we want it to be better, right? We because it's conceptually interesting. It's conceptually interesting.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I like any part of this film with Mishiko Nishiwaki. You can tell I'm fucking struggling with that. any part of the film with her in, I'm on board,
right?
Because it's all interesting, because she's puppeteering a corpse, or she's possessing someone, or, you know, she's turning into a ninja that fires ropes out of her sleeves, and, you know, there's all sorts of cool stuff going on with that, and she looks really good.
Yeah, she brings a certain dignity. To it. She also played. If you're interested in seeing Nishiwaki Michiko as a sorceress, she also plays a sorceress in Witchcraft versus Curse.
Okay. Yeah.
She has a.
Yeah, but I think
so she has one of those. She has a sorcerer battle with another sorcerer.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we'll have a look at that. Or I'll have a look at that. Yeah. But no, I mean, so the stuff with her in is excellent. That Billy Chong is fucking great.
Yeah.
But I can see, for me, I can see two major flaws in this film. Whilst it is really enjoyable, and it's got, I think it's trying to do, or the film it reminds me of most, actually, is, in a funny way, the Heroic Trio.
Okay.
So in Heroic Trio, you've got all sorts of supernatural shenanigans going on. Heroic Trio is much more successful than this at what it does.
Right.
But it's, you know, Heroic Trio's got this kinetic kind of energy. It never lets up. There's always some fucking set piece happening here or there. And it's directed by, you know, Johnny To. It's choreographed by Chin Don. And it's a really fucking, you know, it's a really kinetic piece of cinema, and I really like the Heroic Trio films. But this just fucking lags. And you know what sets those two films apart is that people are always fighting each other, regardless of the supernatural elements of something like the Heroic Trio. People are always having fights, and the fights look really good. Well, no one really fights in this.
No,
you know? The odd bits.
Yeah, it never kicks into gear, does it? It like there's a few things initiated, and then it never goes for it. It's odd. It's like it stalls or something. I'm wondering why that is, if they ran out of time or out of budget, or just
Yeah.
it's a problem in the script in the first place, or
But the action that's on screen when they're doing action and when they're fighting, that action is fucking amazing. I mean, I remember being. I mean, Billy. I would argue that the fights with Billy Chong,
Billy Chow.
Billy Chow, apologies. The fights with Billy Chow and anyone else he's fighting against in this film is the best he's ever looked.
Right.
You know, bar none. And the action is just, you know, but it's just, you know, the problem you've got is, you know, if they were kind of, you know, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 5-minute segments of really good kung fu action, which the team behind this are obviously capable of doing, because it's choreographed by Lam Ching Ying, Xia Ho is in there.
Right. And overall directed by Stephen Tung Wai, who also comes out of the action choreography.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to note that I haven't seen Fox Hunter, but the other 2 films of his that he directed, I have seen the Jet Li film Hitman and Extreme Challenge. Again, if memory serves, don't really hang together well as all films. Like, they might have some great actiony bits, but I'm not sure if he ever quite became a full-rounded director. Right?
No, and I would go further than that, actually, and that's the second point I was going to bring up, is that actually he's a bit of a shit director. Because because there's so many scenes that could have looked so much better, that could have been paced better.
Right.
You know, and this is not even about action, it's about framing, it's about pacing, it's about timing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Editing.
There's some very kind of there's some very badly judged like edits as well in it.
Exactly.
Like, jumps from scenes which are like, oh, is that finished now then? Is it?
Yeah.
Or,
but also, I mean, the final confrontation with the sorceress, you know, that should be fucking balls to the wall, fucking right, left, and center action. And a shitload of stuff happens in that, you know, 5-10 minutes final confrontation.
Right.
But it looks awful.
Yeah.
It's loads of fun, but it looks terrible.
Scrappy, isn't it? It's scrappy, and not in a fun, not in a, you know, because to a certain extent, I mean, there's a broad gamut of, even within this time frame and this time and place, but you know, Hong Kong films could sometimes, they could sometimes be a bit scrappy looking, and but you go with it, right? And there's bits in this that you go with as well, like we mentioned that zombie with the ice pick in the head.
Great scene.
Yeah, and like when he's chucking the drawers like across the room.
Yeah.
It's all done. You can tell they don't have a huge budget, but it's done. It's almost like comic book panels or something. Like they sell it, right? It's done. They know.
Totally,
They know what they can and what they can't do, and they work to those strengths, right? So, but sometimes, like you said, and I'm wondering if it's, in a way, I'm wondering if we're punishing the film for trying too hard. Maybe maybe they were trying to do more than they could do, and which is admirable, I suppose. But it doesn't necessarily make for great viewing at the end of the day, you know.
No, and I think as well is, you know, I mean, you compare, you know, I mean, because, you know, compare Magic Cop to Kung Fu from Beyond the Grave, right? And, you know, even given the fact there's, you know, 8 or 9 years between them, you know, Magic Cop obviously had the bigger budget, comparatively.
Yeah.
And the effects, you know, I'm thinking about things like Wirework, the you know, just the kineticism of the confrontations, not even the fight scenes, but the kind of confrontations between characters, you know, it's handled so much better on a much lower budget.
Yes, but to be fair, I mean, a lot of that stuff is just playing out, you know, in a field in the middle of nowhere, and this film is contending with an urban environment as well, and in room. So I think it is a bit more difficult to pull off in a way, rather than being in a forest in Taiwan or something like that. You know, you're slightly more constrained maybe by.
Yeah, but you know, I think I still think that Tung Wai is not doing his job on this.
Oh, certainly I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to fight
Yeah.
this thing, but
yeah.
it is. But then again, I suppose the carnal, you know, the worst thing any film can do is be boring, and this film isn't often boring. There's a few bits, like the comedy bits, where I'm like, okay, looking at my watch. But then again, I can always look at Wong Mei-hwa, she's cute, and Lam Ching-ying's always kind of fun to just look at somehow. He's out in. And then Wu Ma turns up as well in a wheelchair for a bit. So
with different hats that I didn't quite understand.
So yeah, it's you know, that's the worst thing any film can be, really is. And it's never, it's not boring for long enough for it to be a major problem. So I would say it's a relatively entertaining film. But yeah, it's just it just seems a shame. It could have been up here, and it's down here, isn't it?
It didn't get there. It didn't get to mental, did it?
No. You mentioned heroic. Go on.
No, I was going to say, considering the script it had, considering the elements in it, particularly the finale, it should have been fucking completely mental, balls to the wall, fucking classic.
Yeah. And you mentioned Heroic Troy. The film it reminded me of, actually, now that I was saying how many films are there like this, the other one that jumps into my head, which is slightly similar, is that film Blue Jeans Monster, which was remake of Dead Heat, right? That's got a similar reanimated corpses mixed with modern cop actioner thing going on. I haven't seen that for a while, but I seem to remember that being more mental, but again, maybe in pieces rather than all the way through, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think the problem and let me not. Sorry, I'm kind of. I seem to be bashing this film more than I feel like I should bash this film, but this film is loads of fucking fun. You know, you've got the marionette shit going on, you've got the icicle shit going on.
Yeah.
The final confrontation is kind of, you know, it's layer upon layer upon layer of, you know, evil witch attacking Taoist priest and you know, zombie-ish stuff and laser beams and magic mirrors and all that stuff. And that's fucking great. And that is absolutely is entertaining.
Yes.
But if it had a better director on the case, it would have ascended to such a higher level, given all the mentalness that we've got in here.
Right. And I think it's also worth, I mean, there's two different, I mean, you can approach this film in a critical perspective. You can say, okay, I'm going to give it an honest critical perspective, in so much as it doesn't quite rise, it could have been so much better, and therefore it's maybe slightly more in the failure camp. And that's kind of being objective, right? But then if you want to put your subjective fan head on, then I'm prepared to do that special pleading and to give it, you know, the benefit of the doubt and to enjoy what I can out of it, especially now in, you know, 30 years later, when Hong Kong cinema isn't in a good place and it's not churning films like when this came out, you'd have seen it and then, it's fine, and then there would have been another 10 films, you know, straight after it, you would have been, and you'd have got. But now, because the golden age of bonkers Hong Kong cinema is finite, then we've mentioned this before. It glows a bit more now, doesn't it? Even the lesser examples are like little nuggets for us to pour over, you know, because it doesn't look like those days are.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, no, you're totally right. I think the positive spin on this is, it is mental. It is a mental film.
Yeah.
It's got loads of elements in there that are fucking loads of fun. It's when people are fighting, it's perfect. You know, unfortunately, people are only fighting for probably a total of 5 to 10 minutes of the film.
Right.
Which I see as a slight failing.
Yeah, the ratio is not quite right, is it, for this?
It's really not right, yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's some crazy fantasy horror shit going on here. Lam Ching-ying is in there doing his usual scenery eating, which is fucking glorious. But I do feel it's a missed opportunity. I still feel it's a missed opportunity because all the elements were there and they didn't get brought together.
Right. What's the phrase they use? Curate's egg? Is that a...
Yeah.
So so I would say, depending, if you're listening to this, then in the first place, then you're probably predisposed to watch this kind of thing anyway. So go for it. It's certainly not. It's not going to ruin your evening or something like that.
No. It's well worth watching. There's some stuff in there that I'm glad I watched, and I would hate myself if I'd told myself not to watch it.
I can't imagine any fan of, Hong Kong action cinema not watching this. I would say it certainly is essential viewing, really. But it's not your top tier. It's not your top strata stuff, is it? It's
no.
Yeah. So there we go. That was our Halloween special. I hope you didn't shit yourself out of fear. Actually, I do, because that would be quite funny. I'd quite like to get a mail saying, "Dear Ychyfus, you owe me for a pair of trousers because I shit myself from being scared about you talking about menstrual technology." And
if you do, we won't send you a new pair of trousers, but we might send you a new pair of underwear.
Yes.
So there's an incentive for you there.
Or don't shit yourself. Unless you have some kind of disability that,
No, I'll pay the price of new underwear to have someone shit themselves. That's worth it.
All right, okay.
Right.
Write in to Darren and he will pay and send you underwear if you shit in them, and then send him photos and videos of you doing so.
No, not videos. I want photos.
All right.
Because they're more marketable.
You want a court transcript?
That's it. Yeah. I want it transcribed on one of those special court machines.
Right.
That isn't a typewriter, but it's a funny typewriter, little typewriter.
I've forgotten what it's called.
Different keys.
Anyway, I think we may be straying here, Darren.
Yes.
So let's go. Yeah. We don't want to tax the listener too much.
Let's wish you all a happy Halloween.
Yes. Whether you're shitting yourself or not.
No.
Each his own. So until next time then, Darren, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, Dabo.
involved in that way.